We didn't have lotion, Vaseline, or hair grease. We used lard from the pigs to lotion our body, and lard to grease our hair. I grew up in King and Queen County, Virginia. We never went to the grocery store. We grew everything we ate. We pulled our own vegetables out of the garden. We had no air conditioning. We had an outhouse. We had a black heater to heat our house. We chopped up wood for it. We used a bucket to pull up well water. There was no one else around for 30 miles except our cousins who lived across the field. We had horses, pigs, and a chicken coop. A lot of chickens. A horse named Blackie and a horse named Brownie. We walked to elementary school down the dirt road. The junior high and high school was in the same building. We had about 100 students. At night, it was black outside. There were no street signs, just black sky and dirt roads. We had kerosene lamps. We didn't have flashlights. We didn't know what a flashlight was. We used kerosene lamps. If you were sick, you'd drip a drop of kerosene on a spoon of sugar and swallow it. We had a little store, our family store down the dirt road. You took something and said, "Put it on my tab." Then the total at the end of the month, that's when you would pay it. If you had a cold, you'd put an onion in your sock at night. The onion would draw the fever and cold out. When you took it out in the morning, the onion would be black and your fever would be gone. How do you walk past somebody and don't speak? We spoke to everyone. Them was the good old days. When I was 6 years old, my big brothers would sucker the tobacco while I sat under a tree and played with the worms. Sucker is to pull the weeds out in order for it not to die. You had to get it all out before you would take a leaf and wrap it around the top and hang it up with sticks and let it dry in the barn. A white man would come to buy our tobacco. That's how we made a living. My brother still lives on that land. It was my father's family's land. At first, it was 3 or 4 families living in that one house when I was little, until the brothers started moving out with their wives and children. I went to the park the other day. I overheard some people talking. Someone had brought a watermelon, but they didn't bring a knife, and they were fussing about it. I went over, I told them, "Just drop it on the ground." "It will get dirty," they said. "No, it won't," I said. So they dropped it on the ground, and it broke into nice-sized pieces. See? You don't need a knife. Half the gadgets we buy today we don't need. You just got to have some know-how. Every night my aunt picked out her Afro with her pick with the Black Power fist handle. Then she greased it, picked it, braided it, then rolled the braids in pink sponge rollers, and then put a bandana on top of the rollers. In the morning, she would unbraid it, pick it out, shape it, then spray it with Afro Sheen hairspray. She did all this to be natural. My great-uncle, he had a conk. That was a hairdo of his younger days. Black men had conks. It was hair that was straightened with a chemical called lye. Lye that they mix with eggs and potatoes, and you see how long you can stand it, and then when your scalp's on fire and you can't take it anymore, you rinse out the water. The famous stars who had conks: Sammy Davis Jr., Nat King Cole, James Brown had kind of a conk. You could slick it back, or you could flop it forward like Cab Calloway. I got a job when I was 14 from a man at my church. Mr. Settle made and sold Vel Cream Press. I went every day after school, to learn how to mix the all-natural ingredients together, how to put labels on the jars, and how to pack the product for sale. You couldn't get hair products for black people's hair at most places in those days, the 1940s. Not at the white beauty salons, not at the drugstore, or the grocery store. You could only get it at the black or colored beauty salons. Mr. Settle traveled up and down the East Coast, selling his hair cream to colored beauty salons and the beauty culture conventions. He was a World War II veteran, inspired by Madam C.J. Walker. I left Vel when I was older. I had gotten a job with the Jersey City Parks Department my senior year. When I picked up my city paycheck, I saw a lot of folks getting checks that didn't work with us. They just got a check because they had a political connection at City Hall, not for working. But I will never forget my days at Vel. You can still buy Vel Cream Press today. Mr. and Mrs. Settle were great role models. They were very hard-working and family-oriented. They got married in 1943, and then Mrs. Settle gave birth to 9 boys, all in a row. At the age of 21, Thomas Jefferson inherited a plantation and 200 enslaved people. He wrote an anti-slavery clause into the Declaration of Independence, but it was taken out. To punish his slaves, he would separate families. Jefferson had 6 children by his wife and 6 children by the slave Sally Hemings. He inherited Sally Hemings from his father-in-law, her biological father, and Sally Hemings was Jefferson's wife's black sister. Sally Hemings was 30 years younger than Thomas Jefferson. In his book on the state of Virginia, Jefferson wrote that slavery was wrong. Thomas Jefferson died at age 83 and he was in debt. In his will, he freed Sally Hemings' children, but the other slaves were sold on the public auction.